And it really does suck because, they go to college, they're already in student debt, and then they feel this pressure from everybody, and maybe even their own parents, of like, you need to move out and you need to be having your own career. And so they feel like they don't have an option, and then they feel at crossroads when they hear all these things from, like, whether reading the Bible or Christian teachers, and they're like, you need to be focused on being a mom and being a wife. And it's like, well, I don't feel like I have that option,
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video on the Christian
Faith
YouTube channel, guys. Yes, this is a podcast. In case any of you guys are wondering, of course, it is always available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, in case you don't want to see our ugly faces and just listen to our voices. Anyways, though, for the OGs here on YouTube, guys, I'm here with my wife,
Mallory Faith Hammond.
And I'm David Christian Hammond, and we have a son on the way named Christian. So the next one's going to be a girl. We're calling it now, so it can be the Christian Faith. And then the next final kid, his name is going to be the. So that's the combo. We're going to have all three of them. It's done. Game over. Anyways, with that said, guys, in today's video, I'm going to let Mallory take it away. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the new shot. For any of you guys who are new here, this is not our house. This is Mallory's family's house. They're building a family compound. So our house is maybe halfway done right now. Should be done in about a month and a half. So we'll have a studio separate in there. But for now, we're going to be filming in here. This is kind of their office. It's beautiful. Mallory's dad's a designer, so he designs everything very nicely, and it's gonna look super crispy either way. So with that said, let's jump in, guys. Mal, take it away.
Yes, so today our main topic is going to revolve around the question, should women work? I feel like in this modern, trad wife or, Christian wife marriage little area, this question kind of pops up because sometimes the gender roles can be taken to an extreme. And as we talked about in the last video, there is a lot of nuance with these things, whether it be personality, strengths and weaknesses, seasons of life, circumstances. So we kind of want to get into all of those specifics, and hopefully to give you young women and young men guidance on what to do, and also hopefully touch on the common questions that I've been getting a lot lately, like, should I wait to get myself fully financially established and establish my career as a woman before I have kids? And kind of similar questions that men may ask themselves. So, well, as you guys, if you may or may not be familiar with, we just kind of see where the Holy Spirit leads on these episodes. So,
yep, exactly, guys. So right off the rip, should women work? Absolutely. This is not a matter of one person works, one doesn't. We're both called to work in different ways, guys. I mean, women, the Titus 2 mandate is like, she's going to be working her butt off, taking care of kids, being a helper, being a helpmate. The husband's going to be working too. So if you're looking for an answer as far as like one person working, one not, you're cooked. If you're a Christian, we're disciples. We are the hardest working people in the entire world. We're supposed to work harder than atheists, than Muslims, than agnostics. Jesus says in Matthew 5:16 to let our light so shine before men so they can see our good works, work, and glorify our Father, right? This is all throughout the epistles, guys, to men and to women. Now, though, where it comes into the picture is that work will look differently, okay? Mallory and I, clearly I'm a man, she's a woman. In 2026, I know it's kind of confusing to say that. There is male and female. There's two genders, guys. And what society is going to do, its hardest, we spoke about this in the last episode, is they're going to blur that line. They're going to mesh that line. And that's why we have so much confusion today, like literally gender confusion, but then a myriad of other problems. We have by 2030, a few years' time, 50% of women, 50, will be childless and single. The divorce rate's extremely high. No one's getting married. No one's having kids. We're confused. And the reason we're confused is because we've blurred these gender roles, right? So the short answer is, yeah, no crap, man. We're both going to be working. But that will look different. And if you think that a woman should do what a man does and a man should do what a woman does, not only are you confused biblically, but biologically. I do blame you, but I also blame the programming. You're feeding into this goofy matrix garbage that is destroying the West. So yes, we need to bring back distinction. We need to bring back role. That is what is biblical. Jesus says, let your yes be yes, your no be no. There is a clear divisive line in the sand, and that's what we're going to speak of in today's video.
Yeah, there's a lot, like I said, that we can go into because there is a lot of nuance with this conversation, because even with everything David said, I think the question still arises in women of like, well, should I be working like a corporate job at all, or should it just be the work that is done as a stay-at-home mom, right? And I think that's another thing that comes up with this conversation is we just, as a society, don't really value the work that moms do. So just because they don't get paid by like a W-2 or something or an employer, they think that it's less than. But I want to point out that this idea that the man works the 9 to 5 and goes off to like this office cubicle and the woman stays home, That's a very modern thing. What was it, like the Industrial Revolution when that stuff kind of started? Where
Yeah, guys, not that we're experts in this, but I mean, if you look at all human civilization, people lived and worked in family units, right? I'm not saying you had to live with your family per se, but like they were in close proximity. So let's say your dad was a blacksmith. Their whole family is more or less going to help be a blacksmith. If you're a carpenter, if you're this, you're that.
shoemaker.
So yeah, exactly. This idea that society, modernity, what it's done is it's completely segregated the family, where like the father has this job, the mom has a complete different job, which already, that's feminism, guys. Like there's a reason why divorce is so high. Like the woman's going to flirt with her coworker, the husband's going to flirt with his coworker, the kids are confused, they're shipped off to like God
separates
knows.
the nuclear family.
Yeah, like God knows where, what university, what liberal education they're going to come out with gender confusion, yada yada. So the whole family's segregated, and I think that's what Mal's alluding to. We want to, I would say, biblically and practically, be as close knit as you can. Like as you guys know, we're working on being living in a family compound, right? Predominantly, yes, for Mallory and I, but really it's for the kids, because we do believe that your kids should grow up with their cousins. You know, we shouldn't be driving out hours. They should be in close proximity with the family. I mean, when you remove the father in particular, yes, the nuclear family, but the father, you guys know what happens. This is all statistical. Crime rate skyrockets, homelessness, drug addiction, everything. So society wants to liberalize everything. Feminism wants to do that, but more importantly, Satan wants to divide everybody. So yes, the gospel's divisive, but you as a family unit, you should be tight-knit.
I also wanted to bring that up to kind of set up and explain a timeline in case you guys aren't familiar with. We saw the Industrial Revolution, which David really clarified that it separated the nuclear family. And then you have the early roots of feminism that came in, where women wanted to work, even though that was a small minority of women that actually wanted that ability. Most of them enjoyed being able to only have the husband be taxed, right? They had the man of the household have the primary, what was it, like
Hobo
the
woman had
votership.
to work. It's actually so backwards.
Yeah. And so like I said, majority of women, they enjoyed how things were at the time. But besides the point, with this introduction of women working, that allowed the government to then tax the other 50% of the population. And so over the course of the last 50, 60, 70 years, that's where we have seen inflation, right? And that's where the topic comes up, why a lot of women, again, are asking, like, am I allowed to work? Because they feel like they have to. You know, I was just telling David before we filmed this, I had a lot of friends, like, or roommates in the past, for the one semester that I didn't live with my parents, but there was girls that, like, if they had the option, they would not work, but they worked accounting jobs and stuff because they had to pay rent. They had to, they didn't have family that would support them the way that I did. And so women do feel this pressure to provide for themselves. And it really does suck, because, you know, they go to college, they're already in student debt, and then they feel this pressure from everybody, and maybe even their own parents, of like, you need to move out and you need to be having your own career. And so, like I said, I understand, like, women, they feel like they don't have an option, and then they feel like crossroads when they hear all these things from, like, you know, whether reading the Bible or Christian teachers, and they're like, you know, you need to be focused on being a mom and being a wife. And it's like, well, I don't feel like I have that option, you know?
Yeah, so again, guys, it is a very sensitive topic, and we have a lot of empathy towards it. Mallory's really going to pour into you guys as women, because I do feel in this area it's a lot more difficult as a woman to apply this. Like, as a man, we're called to work, right? Like, point blank, period. That was Adam's curse. That's what we're going to do. Now, a lot of men struggle with this too. A lot of men are very idolatry, effeminate, looking for hookups, dating, yada yada. Where's my wife? And they're not on mission whatsoever. Okay, like, just because you work as a man doesn't mean you're doing God's work. That's a huge distinction. Okay, so hey, make no mistake. This is why there's so many millionaires, extremely wealthy men, good-looking Hollywood actors, and they still get divorced, right? So make no mistake. Just because you have worldly success that is not Matthew 6:33, right? That's Chase the World 6:33. But what Mal's saying is, biblically, guys, and practically speaking, you need to preserve your beauty. I mean, the reality is this, guys, okay? Men and women, we are different. Men start from ground zero. I mean, even think of the Garden of Eden, right? What was Adam called to do? He was called to work. Men start with nothing. Go name the animals, go tend to the garden. When Adam was doing that, he was building up his frame. God then sent him Eve, and Eve was a helper to that. If we think biologically, guys, and some of you can disagree, you can get offended, whatnot, but like, women are already born with all of your intrinsic beauty. You just have to preserve that. And what society's going to do, you have to understand this. Understand how Satan works. Society's going to do everything it can to destroy that purity, right? Whether through movies, whether through porn, whether through hookup culture, whether through feminism, whether through stress, right? Where with men, we have to earn our value. Men are born with nothing. El Zippo. If a man doesn't build, he's going to be a hobo. No one's going to want him, and that's the reality. So men have to build. And what is society going to do to attack that? They're going to try. I don't know how many times I get this or men get this. Oh, you're being an extremist. You're being too harsh. You're being too rude. You just need to chill out. You need to come drink with us. Who cares about goals? Just be fat. What it tries to do is it tries to nullify men, or it tries to castrate men. Right? Anytime, I know you guys out there, you're really trying to, it's New Year's now, right? You're really trying to set those goals that are strange to the world. You're going to be called a weirdo. You're going to be called an extremist, a narcissist, whatever. And so they're going to try to nullify you. But as a woman, it's so funny. They're going to do the opposite. They're going to say, yeah, girl, you go, leave your purity. You go to 30 different countries and chase up that corporate career, which is going to give you ulcers and male-related diseases by the time you hit 30 and all your eggs are going to rot. You get that, girl. Do you guys realize it's all backwards? It's all backwards, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this. So as a woman, you have the beauty and the pleasure and the grace of already having your value. Hold on to that. Are we saying you can't work? Look, dude or lady, if you need to work, obviously, to hit bills, then yes, I understand. We live in 2026. Stuff is expensive as crap. But try your best to choose a job that is going to hold on to that purity. Because guess what? You can make all the millions. You can have all the you-know-what. But if a man doesn't want you because he's not attracted to these things that you were taught, right, by the world, you're going to be single. And if you don't agree with me, those are the stats, guys. By 2030, 4 years, 50% of women will be childless and single. Again, it goes both ways. It's both of our fault. But if you think, screw that, I'm just going to go keep chasing my bag because this is what I think is right in my own eyes, do not complain when God or a man doesn't want that.
There's a lot I want to touch on. I think just to kind of bring clarity to something David says, because for the longest time, it didn't make sense in my mind and it sounded very offensive because it sounds like, oh, women, we lose our value over time. That's not what we're saying. But if you look at even biologically, women are born with the most amount of eggs that they will ever have. And then that deteriorates over time. By the time you get to 30 years old, you have less than 50% of your eggs, right? So you have a lower fertility rate. But for men, they don't start producing sperm until they hit puberty, I think a little bit before. And then after they hit puberty, they're creating new sperm, like a crazy amount. I don't remember the exact number, so you'll have to fact check me. I think it's like 1,000 sperm every second, something like that.
Maybe it's like millions per day or whatever.
Yeah, something like that. And they also get like new cycles every 3 months. So again, biology once again reflects God's design of the value of men and women. And I love it too, because I think even biblically we see how when God wanted to, when God wanted to speak to or be with man, he always had the men come to him. But then when he wanted to speak to or be with women, he always went to the woman. Isn't that super cool? But anyways, so the other thing I wanted to touch on, David at the end was saying that women, both men and women, but we need to be wise in choosing the work that we do, the career that we choose. And I'll even just kind of tattletale on myself. This was before I was born again, right? We're in high school. We're told you need to plan your whole career so that you know what you're going to go and do in college and stuff. And my carnal, unborn again, unregenerated mind immediately went to what job, yes, that I will enjoy, but what job is going to make me the most money? And I think that's the main issue that a lot of people, go towards, even Christians, but okay, what can I do that makes me the most money instead of what complements my strengths and weaknesses? But most importantly, what has God called me to do in this season? And I think just being open to that through prayer, through fasting, and then that's probably what we'll get into the conversation is we just think that there are some jobs that are not, for both men and women, not conducive to your biology, again, to your strengths and weaknesses, but also to the seasons of life that you may be in. I don't know if you want to touch on how you worked a lot in some seasons of your life, but that would not be conducive to you being married or like a future father and stuff.
Yeah, we're going to touch on a bunch of things, guys, to kind of hit with what Mal was saying. Look, the reality here, let me tell you what's ideal, okay? This is ideal. This is biblical. The Bible says that a man shall leave his mother and father and cleave onto his wife, right? To leave and then cleave. Biblically, how things are supposed to go, guys, is the woman stays at home. till she's married. Okay. There's no like secular university. There's no racking up all this stuff. She's at home, right? And I understand they got married a lot earlier back then. I think we should bring that back too. So let's say until she was 18 years old, the husband, he was out working, he was providing, yada, yada. He said, hey, I want to marry your daughter. The parents were like, you know what? Yeah, we like you. Boom. That's it. Left and cleft, right? Or leave and cleave. Boom. That's ideal. That's what you want to do. You were very close to that. You almost had it ideal. You were in college for like a couple of years, but Mallory got married at 21. In 2026 today, that's almost unheard of, right? So usually the man's going to be a bit older because, like I said, when I got married at 26, I'm 5 years. I'm almost 28 now. So this was.
And I'll share the one semester that I was living on my own. I was broke and I had to like rack up a credit card.
Yeah, it was horrible. It doesn't work, guys. Okay, and we can speak about that. Mal looked completely different when we got married. She literally looked more like a man because when women do manly things, they literally turn into men. And that's how you know too, like, this is not your biology. If it was your biology, you'd flourish in that. But like when women are single and they're by themselves, they literally act more manly. And you're going to tell me that that's like what women are designed to do? It's the biggest paradox. So that's what's ideal. Now, if that can't happen, what we're saying, and I understand it's easier said than done, but guess what? The Christian faith is hard. Sucks. Okay? Go be a degenerate, secular, blue-haired liberal if you want to, you want a more easy life with this. Try to find a job that is going to keep your purity the best you can. So Mallory is an example. When she did work, she worked as a nanny. And I think that's perfect. I think that is phenomenal. Doing something that is utilizing your feminine natural qualities, nurturing, cooking, cleaning. It's allowing you to, like Mallory said, use your talents. Well, I'll give you an example, right? When I worked labor full-time a couple of years ago before we got married, it was all men, of course, because it's a male-dominated job. But there were 2 women who worked there. And I will tell you guys this. Number one, they sucked. They were like literally the slowest. And I'm not trying to be mean. Statistically, I work side by side. They were the slowest employees. Okay, so that already goes to show that women have jobs, men have jobs. Just like I can't be a nanny. I'm going to suck at that. I'm going to be horrible, right? The baby looks like it has to take a dump and I'm going to think it's hungry. I don't know. But number 2, it ruined the women. It ruined them. They both began to turn into men. They were the slowest. They had to always write these fake delay slips because they would just talk to everybody. So where I'm going, guys, is there are objective better jobs and worse jobs. Try your best to find something that's going to suit you and pray to God. Really, that's the best thing. Ask God, can you give me a job that will not completely wreck my biology? Maybe that means being a barista. Maybe that means like being a librarian. Maybe that means working in an environment that is going to allow you to have a more quiet, meek spirit. That's really what it is. And the exact opposite goes with men, right? I pray to God, hey, give me a job that's going to allow me to step out of my comfort zone to hop into that providing a protector mode. So for me, it was either labor or security role. So those are the only jobs I applied for. And yes, what we're saying, guys, is when ish hits the fan, okay, when the dust settles, we are different. A good quote Mallory said was from a podcast called With the Perrys. You told me this story that the wife, Jackie Hill Perry.
I'll share.
Okay, you want to go first?
Yeah, so basically something I've been talking to David a lot about is how we can't outrun our biology. So the things that I've been learning more is a lot of women, they come to me for coaching. If you guys are interested, we'll link it down below, but as well as coaching for men. But a lot of people think that becoming more feminine or embracing their femininity is like a set of character traits or things that you just like learn how to do to become more feminine. And if that was the case, men that are transitioning to woman, trans people could become feminine, but they can't, because femininity in of itself is an essence. It's a nature that we're born with, right? And then depending on things that we may go through in life, whether trauma, stress, whatever it is, it may diminish that. So when women come to me for coaching, it's not teaching them all of these things to do, but rather teaching them to release, to let go, to surrender to the Lord, so that we're able to actually embrace that feminine nature, like I said, that has been hindered for so long. And so what I was telling David recently is, even when we try, I'll speak for myself, even in the past, to try to be more masculine, that feminine nature is still always going to be there. That's why when I was the most masculine I'd ever been, outwardly, inwardly, in speech, when Dave and I were talking as friends before we met in person, he actually made a video about it. He could feel like this feminine energy that made him like, I don't know, what'd you say in the video? Like, it made you want to be a better man?
I said it inspired me. That's what femininity does to men, because it's so different. So quick little tip, and I'll let Mallory get back to it. what you guys have been taught as far as like, women, if you want to impress your man, go act like a man. It's disgusting. It's repulsive. You know what inspires us? What we as men cannot produce naturally, and that's femininity. That's your ability to want to just, a good quote goes, men are the head of the house, women are the heart of the house. You know, that's your greatest power. Yeah.
So I just thought that was super cool. Again, when I was the most quote unquote masculine, I could not outrun my feminine biology. And so I shared him this story with Jackie Hill Perry. For those of you guys who may or may not be familiar with her, she was like, before born again, full on lesbian, like, not my words, hers. And she had a girlfriend who was a lot more feminine, you know, outwardly. I don't know what they call those, like lipstick lesbians or something. I don't know. Sorry. And they're at a hotel, and this very big burly guy basically tried to like attack them or assault them or whatever. And Jackie Hill Perry's girlfriend at the time hid behind her as if she was the man to protect her. But then Jackie Hill Perry at that moment, after years of pretending almost to be like a guy, she looked around instinctively for the man for her to hide behind. And that's what really opened her eyes before she was born again. And she was like, oh my gosh, I can try to pretend to be a guy all I want, but I really am just a little girl inside.
Yeah, and I'll tell you guys this too. I said we had 2 women who worked the labor job. We also had 2 transgenders who were both men pretending to be women. And I'll tell you this, they were men, okay? When biology hits, when they pick up 80-pound sacks of frozen steak and potatoes, that is a man lifting that. There's nothing womanly about that, okay? You know, good quote goes too, is like, everyone wants to be a feminist till World War III hits, and then back in the kitchen. And heck, you know what? Like, it goes both ways, guys. I say that to myself. Like, we can all pretend to be something, but when ish hits the fan, that's when our biology is going to take over. I'll give you an example, right? Like, even with us as men, you know, there are a lot of things, like David has an inner B word. I have like this, like David has an inner thing that I don't want to do things. All of us men, like, let's just be honest, you know, there are times I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do things like this, but I really want you to envision it like this. No, like inner, like BI, you know, but think of it this way, guys. When you go 10K in debt, what side of you is that going to pull out? That's what I'm talking about. You know, on the surface, guys, we can all pretend to be kind of egalitarian. We're all the same. We live in, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs too. When all of our base needs are met, food, shelter, money, we can kind of pretend to be honky-dory, like whatever, that's fine. This is in the Roman Empire too. If you study civilizations, when they build and when they fall, right? But when things hit the fan, this is what we're talking about, right? You go 20K in debt. You got 2 kids on the way, and you got to worry about A, B, C, D. That is where you're really going to find out what are your natural skills, what are your talents, and we're saying emphasize that. Choose a job or a career that is able to, like we said, exemplify that. But today, guys, because we have such a topsy-turvy society and we don't really ever face, I don't believe, true like struggles, we're just confused, right? Men are going into women jobs, women are going to men jobs, and then they realize, if you guys think I'm being mean, they realize 5 years down the road, once they're 30K in debt, they hate this job. Right? And that's why the male suicide rate is so high too. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons. I'm not just going to attribute it to just their work, but we're confused, guys. We are confused, and that is a huge point of the Christian faith here. So where we're going to speak of a ton of things here, but you as a woman or women, you have your beauty intrinsic within you. Society is going to do everything it can to pervert that and to ruin that. Do not listen, okay? Yes, ideally, try to wait for a husband, okay? I know that's not going to be easy, and I know that sounds like, David, what, am I just going to do nothing? No. Do what you can in the meantime. I'll let Mallory speak up on that. But for men, this is so important too. Get off dating apps. Get off these corny, goofy women idolatry. Where's my Eve? Show me where in the Bible Adam was looking for his Eve. Show me in the Bible where any of these men were looking for their wives in these very desperate ways. Adam was tending to the garden. Guys, as men, you need to build, okay? You need to take what we call, or what I call, your Paul arc, 3 to 5 years where you're really just building yourself, paying off debts, growing financially, growing in the word spiritually. And when God sees fit that you're ready, he will send you a woman. I had a lot of guys make fun of me saying, what, David, she just going to pop out of thin air? Yeah, she just popped out of thin air. Verbatim, guys, okay? And it's not because I'm some special guy or look at me. No, it's because God sees fit. This is known as stewardship, okay? God's looking and he's saying, hey, I've given you 2 talents, let's say. Before I add more talents onto you, right? Whether that's talents, finances, whatever it may be, are you going to truly utilize the 2 talents I've given you? But I'm here to tell you guys as men, if you just ignore those 2 talents and you bury them, just like in the parable, you pretend like, oh, you know, let me go do something else that God is not calling me towards. Why would he add stuff onto you? He cannot trust you. So even, yes, guys, if you're 20K in debt, I was 20K in debt a couple of years ago. I gave up my old big worldly secular business when God told me to give that up, when he told me to, go into the wilderness, to go work labor, living paycheck to paycheck. It's not about what you do, guys, but it's who are you when doing it. Do you understand? That's really the whole point of what we're trying to say. I don't give a rip what job you work as a woman. I don't give a rip what job you work at as a man. But is God calling you towards that? And God is not the author of confusion. He is not going to tell you as the woman to go work a man job that's going to completely fry your cortisol levels. And he's not going to tell you as a man to go work something that he knows is not going to pull the best of you. So I always say, too, the last thing I'll say to Mal is when I worked that labor in the warehouse for that year and a half, it completely transformed me. Like, it really kind of in a good way ultimately, but like it's really going to change you and beat you up. And I always say to Mallory that I truly believe that's what enabled me to give me that kind of last final push to be able to be that provider or that protector for you. Sorry guys, I just got my package, new iMac. Let's go, because these podcasts, I don't know if it's just Satan, I don't know what it is. It takes a stupid amount of time to edit on my old computer. My other business, Christ Developed, it works fine, but with this, I don't know why. So we got a new iMac. We invested into it. Let's go. Time to crank this out. So I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, we've said it multiple times, and I know it sounds so frustratingly simple, but this really does come down to, because there's so much nuance and, maybe even some overlap with, yes, there are hard strengths and weaknesses between men and women, but there's also going to be overlap with personalities. What it really comes down to is Matthew 6:33. You need to individually seek God's will over your life. And you know what? His will over your life when you're 20 maybe is going to be different when you're 25. Kind of what I wanted David to share earlier was when he was single, there was a season where he was editing all of the footage for his church, which was probably like 20 hours a week or something. And yeah, and then he was working full time on top of that, and he was still powerlifting. Like, he was working nonstop, but that was only sustainable for probably like 6 months out of his life. But that's what God was calling him to do at that time, right? It was teaching him a lot of things, character development, work ethic, all that sort of stuff. But now a lifestyle like that would not be conducive to having a wife, to the season that he's in, and all that sort of stuff. So again, like we said from the beginning, you have to be wise with choosing something that is going to be conducive with what you want in the future, with what God has called you to do. I think my exhortation would really just be, don't fall in the trap of just trying to do what's going to make you the most money. For men and women. But again, I sound like a broken record player and it sounds so simple, but really just asking God, what is your will for my life and what do you want from me? And no matter how scary that is, even if that fear is, that doesn't seem like my bills are going to get paid with that. But that's where the test comes in. Are you going to be obedient? Yeah,
like, I'll be brutally honest with you guys. I am probably like, let's say like out of a meter of like how hard of a man works or how hard I work. I'm probably like a 6. I'm not at like my 10 or anything like that. But this is what Mallory was saying, which is very important. There's different seasons with things. You guys need to understand this. When I was working full-time labor, I was running both businesses, and I wasn't competing powerlifting, but I was still powerlifting. I was actually accomplishing very little. And this is what a lot of people are not going to tell you. I was on paper working really hard. I was editing for my church and filming that, but I was stuck. All my businesses were stuck. They were stagnant. Christ Developed didn't yet take off. Self-developed was diminishing. And now that's okay, though, for the time being, because eventually what's going to happen is he's going to, allow you to have a breakthrough. But what I'm saying, guys, is just because you work hard does not equate to you working smart. Do you understand? There will be seasons in your life where God deliberately needs you to be more still. Where on paper, you're going to kind of look like, dude, like, I feel like you could be grinding more and doing these things. And it's like, that may be true, but are you genuinely going to hear God's voice? Because I'll tell you guys this, and this is so ironic, and I tell Mal this too, when I eventually, and believe me, this was scary, but when I went from full-time labor to part-time, from 5 days a week to 3 days, I wasn't going to be able to pay all my bills with the 3 days a week, but I really felt I can't hear God's voice as much. I'm too busy, right? The Bible says, be still and know that I'm God. So when I took that risk to go from 5 days to 3 days, my ministry shot up and I probably tripled the amount of money I made. So this is not me telling you, work less, work more. No. What season are you in? Mallory and I are about to have a kid. Mal's about to have a kid in about 5 months. I know for a fact, bro, this season's going to be crazy. It's going to be insane. So you know what? And what I will tell you guys is you may be in a season right now. I'll be honest. I don't think most men, if you guys are single, you're probably not in the season. But when I married you, like, a lot of things changed in my life. And I really had to be a lot more emotionally adept and available and in tune. Where like when you're a single man, dude, your face is to the plow. And it's very different for me, you know, being like, okay, wow, I can't treat you just like a male coworker and just say like, shut up. And like, we do our own thing. Not that I would tell him to shut up. You get what I mean? As men, we're like, no, not right now. And so much has changed. So what we're here to tell you guys is really just be honest with yourself in this season as a man or a woman. What is God calling you to? Please, please, please. You need to understand this. There is a difference between action and activity. Action is going to be inspired by God. That's going to be, let's say God says, do these 3 things, okay? I want you to work out. I want you to post those videos, do that client call, and eat a good meal. That's action. That's going to objectively bring you closer towards your goal. Now, there's activity, though. Activity is just mindless rumination of like, I'm going to go for 3 walks a day. I'm going to, clean the rug 15 times. I'm going to do 5 million jumping jacks. I'm going to go run back and forth down the street. That may be cool on paper, and it may even look good, but is that what God is calling you to do? Do you understand? You need to work smart, man. If you're just in this old rat race of just how can I grind on paper and spin my wheels in the mud and go nowhere, you're going to be cooked. So yes, you need grit, man. You have to be able to work. But are you listening to what God's telling you? Because I'll tell you guys this. Let's say there's 100 doors. You can physically, manually go and open every 100 door till eventually the 99th one you find is the right one. Or you can take a step back, be still and know that I'm God, and allow God to illuminate which one of those doors is correct. You need to work smart, but then hard to.
I think I'll finish the video with sharing like a similar but not the same story on my end where I felt so strongly the Lord called me to move to Dallas in summer of 2024. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did not have the finances for it. I had just enough to pay for like the school tuition for the ministry school I was going to, and to pay for the initial couple months rents and stuff. But again, everyone thought that I was crazy, and I was like, you know what, God's calling me to it. And then when I went there, I'm over here thinking like, okay, I have school 20 hours a week, and then I'll get a part-time job where I work after school. And I applied to multiple nanny jobs, but I remember praying, I was like, God, if for some reason I felt like he didn't want me to work, which made no sense to me because I was like, how am I going to afford, paying for stuff? But I was like, God, if you don't want me to work a nanny job, please close these doors. And he closed all of them. And it did not make sense. And there were some months where I had to ask my parents for money. There was some months where I miraculously had people like sow into my ministry, and I was like, okay, I'm able to pay rent this month. But I realized, towards the end of that semester, that if I would have had my nanny job where I was working 5-6 days out of the week, I would not have been able to film or help you for the week that you came. And we most likely would not have gotten married because we wouldn't have met. Let alone I would not have been able to start evangelizing at college campuses and filming it if I was working after school every single day. So that just goes to show another example with what God is calling you to do. Honestly, on paper is not going to look wise at times or smart. And to other people, it may seem crazy, but that's where you just have to be still before him, and just have faith that like, even if it doesn't make sense, that he has an ultimate plan and purpose for it at the end of the day.
Yeah, guys, you're both going to work, but it's going to be different. And we need to make this very clear, okay? There is such a thing. There's 2 kinds of people, right? So you're going to have to, diagnose which one are you. There's the person where, I'm speaking to men here, where you don't do enough. Okay? Men or women, you're not doing enough. Like you need to get up, man, and get your fat ass to the gym, okay? That's number 1. But number 2, guys, there is, and I feel this is really, really big with both men and women, this very idolatrous hustle culture where it's just you wake up at 4 a.m, you do 5 million jumping jacks before you take the cold shower, and you go work an 18-hour day, and if you ever don't, then you're a B word, right? The problem with that, though, guys, a lot of times, not only are these men miserable, like it's not sustainable, are you truly going to be able to be receptive to what God is calling you to do? Like, even like Mallory said, if she were to work that full-time thing, she probably would not have the availability to then meet with myself in person. And again, it's not just so much like, oh, you're doing this for a husband. It's so God wants to meet you halfway is what we're saying, guys. And it's the same thing with me. If I was still working full-time, right, I probably would not have went to Dallas and took a week off, because I don't even think I could. Sure. Yeah, I didn't even have vacation time at that time. The only reason I was able to come is because I worked the 3 days, so I could take 4 days off, and then I called in 1 day, right? Don't tell them. And so the same thing goes, right? If I was really just grinding, it would go right over my head. A very good quote goes that success is when opportunity meets preparation. So there's two things. Yes, you need the preparation. Yes, you're still going to be working, but you need to be still enough to see when the opportunity is arising. If you have your head to the floor the entire time, you're not looking up. That opportunity is going right over your head. When God's saying, hey, I want you to reach out to this person. Hey, you know what? I want you to take a week off and go to Alabama and preach to who knows what, right? And you're thinking, what the heck? Why would I do that? But man, guys, God's ways are not our ways. And when you can have that blend of, hey, you know what, God, I'm going to do it when you tell me, man, if you guys want to be successful, and obviously, you know, this is a very different definition than worldly success, because by no means am I a Bugatti billionaire, far from that. I'm probably a hobo to those standards. But I'll tell you guys this, if you really want to be in God's will for your life, the one mindset you need to have is, God, when you tell me to jump, I say how high. When God tells you to start that evangelism ministry, when he tells you to move to Texas, when he tells you to leave that job, when he tells you to go get this job, when he tells you, you know what, now you're going to go get pregnant, hey, I want you to go do this. Yes, our flesh will wrestle, but you need to try to be as obedient as you can, and that will be scary. I would say the biggest thing I've learned this past year of being married is it's not so much in what you do, but it's in what you let go to then do, if that made sense. There's going to be a lot of letting go of what you think you need to do, and a lot of trusting God, a lot of letting go of the old vine to grab onto the new one. And that in between wilderness time where you've let go and you're like, God, I trust you, that is scary. And I really do believe that's what differentiates a worldly man to a spiritual man. Boom.
Just to wrap it up there, men and women, both working, it's going to look different. It's also going to look different based off person to person, based off what we're called to. So
yeah, what we're kind of saying to wrap it up here, because we say one thing and then we go on the whole rabbit trail. Women, guys, of course, you're going to work. Ideally, you want to choose a job that is as conducive as possible to flourishing your femininity, okay? And if society's telling you otherwise, you can tell them respectfully, shut up, okay? Men, we're going to choose jobs that is really going to exemplify or bring out those provider and protecting qualities. They're very different, okay? You as a woman should not be working full-time labor in a meat factory. And if you're a man, you probably shouldn't be nannying, okay? Sorry to break it to you. Women, you have your value intrinsic within you. You want to hold on to that and protect that the best you can, to pray to God. And that's a huge part. Yes, there's going to be faith involved of God. Bring my husband to me, right? I'm holding on to my purity to show, to prove that I do trust your plan. And that's what Mal was doing the best she could. She could have worked full-time nannying, but God said, no, I don't want you to do this. So because of that, boom, we met. So if you guys are thinking that, oh, that's not realistic, you know, I need to have $50,000 and be super safe to the world standard, you're trusting the world over God. And as a man, it's the same thing. You know, it feels like, God, I'm paying off all these debts. I'm working so much, maybe 2 jobs, maybe 3 at this time being, you know, is this really leading somewhere? I'll tell you guys this, God will build you up as a man before he then sends you the woman, okay? Before I met Mal, I had the most affluent months in my entire life with the ministry, and I said, God, what's this all for? Right? And it was for Mallory. But the reason that happened, this is so important, is because I trusted God when he said, I need you to leave this full-time job. That's when the money came, guys. It wasn't while I was working on holding on to both vines. There's a time for that. In fact, there's a time where you may work overtime. But eventually, when God is saying, hey, I need you to let go of this old thing, which is going to be scary, can you do that? Can you start what God is calling you to do? And that is where we're going to finish it, guys. Hopefully this helped. I know we were a little all over the place. Hopefully you can get some nuggets from this, guys, whatever we titled this. And we love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm about to open up the new iMac so I can edit this and get this out for tomorrow. If you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. If you guys want to gift into this ministry, allow it to grow, because we're not stopping. I don't care what other Christian podcast we're coming from. We're going to be #1, or at least as high as God can call us to be. If you guys want to gift into this ministry, support it. You can always sow into it down below. We use all these proceeds, guys, to keep us alive, keep baby Christian alive too, and we appreciate you guys so much. Thank you to anyone who is currently supporting this ministry.
On top of that, we also offer one-on-one coaching and discipleship, myself for the women and David for the men. If you enjoyed today's episode and you maybe feel this calling of like, I need more help, right? Because there's a lot of nuance to this and you want some guidance on that, we'll be sure to link down our coaching websites below so that you can book with us.
Yes. Thank you guys so much. Let us know what videos you guys want us to talk about down below. Give us feedback. Give us whatever you guys think, right? Help each other out. We're a growing community here, and we'll check you guys next video. Till then, much love.
Peace.
Peace.